Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of STVCastle Chess. This is Stephen Vitt coming back to you once again with another chess game to analyze and review. And as you can see here with this game, as always, my username is OrangeFox7 when I play chess online. And for this game, guys, this is one of those games where it first of all it like transformed into a King's Gambit kind of position. And then it got a little bit off the rails for some of the moves, as you'll see here in a minute. My opponent, diegodiez, here on chesstempo.com, diegodiez, he came up with a strategy. He came up with something good here at points. So let's just get right to it, shall we? So I have the white pieces, Diego, he has the black pieces. So let's start here. E4, E5. Typical setup. F4. That is the King's Gambit setup. That is what I was wanting to get. But he declines. Knight c6 instead. Knight f3. When in doubt, just develop. d6. Bishop b5. And that's normally the stance I take when it comes to positions like this. When I have a King's Gambit kind of position, I like to get my bishop out, my light square bishop out as quickly as possible and in an attacking kind of form. Bishop d7 to protect the knight. c3, I go with that setup that's also seen in another opening called the Ponziani opening, where c3, moving the pawn up to c3, is essential. a6, he's trying to chase away my bishop. I move my bishop back, a4. So here's where I say that some things got off the rails here. Initially, I was going for King's Gambit right off the bat, but he declined. Diego declined that offer for a pawn sacrifice here. But he waits until move 6 to do it. E-pawn takes F-pawn, F4. That gives me the freedom to move my D-pawn up to D4. Bishop E7. I go ahead, take back the pawn. Bishop takes pawn, F4. So, and that's really one of the goals of mine when it comes to a King's Gambit kind of game, is that when you know that you offer up that pawn on the F file right away, you got to come up with a game plan to get back that pawn. Knight f6. He's attacking that, at the moment, unprotected e-pawn. I drop my bishop back to c2 to protect that pawn. Bishop g4. Now he's attacking my knight here, my kingside knight. Pinning the knight because the queen is right there behind the knight. I go ahead and give my knight extra protection with another knight, knight b to d2. Diego castles, and I go h3. Now, sometimes I would go with the castling move myself. If I know my opponent castles, sometimes that happens where I just go ahead and castle myself. But in this case, I wanted to make sure that this light square bishop that's attacking my knight, I want to get it out of the way. I want to get it out of an attack mode, so to speak. So h3 is my response. He drops his bishop back, bishop d7. Queen e2. Now, if you notice here, I clear out the back rank completely of all my pieces so that my king can move freely. My king can still kingside castle, but now it can also queenside castle. Sometimes that's very important to do, is that, yes, if you have like one part of your castling open, but the other one is not so open, you know, that's all well and good. But if you have both options available to you, that would be more ideal. And so that would be one tip I would provide for you guys right now, is that if you are able to, make sure you develop your pieces enough so that you clear off the entire back rank so that your king can castle either way, king side or queen side. Rook e8, next move there. And there, as I just said, queenside castle is my next move. I gave myself the opportunity to queenside the other way, even though kingside castling was already available. Knight to h5. So as you can see here, Diego, he's starting to form an attack on the wing with that move, knight to h5. And that was part of my thought process when it comes to which side I should castle in. Because when you have a weakened pawn structure, like when you see here with the G and H pawns here in the corner, it gets pretty hectic. It gets pretty chaotic. Not gonna lie. So I dropped my bishop back, bishop h2, because the knight was attacking it. Bishop g5, pinning my knight because my king is right there. Can't move the knight unless I move the king. So that's what I do. Move my king out of harm's way, king to b1. Knight to f4. Now he's attacking my queen. So I have to come up with some sort of response here. Bishop takes knight f4. Bishop takes bishop f4. So what's the next move for me? Queen d3. Never hurts to position your pieces in the center. And as you see here, the diagonal, the bishop and the queen connecting. Bishop takes knight d2 is Diego's response. Move 17. I go ahead, take back with the rook. Rook takes bishop d2. Knight e7. So when you're analyzing this position right now, guys, the fortress wall, so to speak, the fortress wall that Diego is hiding his king behind over there, FGH pawn area, that needs to be addressed. So what do I do here? Well, just pay attention to that specific corner of the board. G4, I have to start my attack towards that corner. Knight G6. I already know what he's trying to do. He's trying to get to my queen via the knight. Go ahead, slide my rook over horizontally. Rook d to h2. Just as I thought. Knight to f4, attacking my queen. Move my queen out of harm's way. Queen to e3. Knight goes back to g6. Rook g2. I have these two files secured with the pawns and the rooks. d5, trying to attack my pawn here. I simply move my pawn forward, e5. f6, trying to put pressure on that pawn. h4, I have to start directing my pieces towards that corner where the king's at. F-pawn takes e-pawn, e5. Knight takes pawn, e5. So that's asking the question here for the knight, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, knight on g6? What are you going to do? So knight takes knight, e5. That's what he does. Pawn takes the knight back on e5. Bishop c6. Now here's a key point here. I've seen this in many games where my opponent would try to come up with a discovered attack, because you see here with the pawn is getting ready to move to attack both this pawn and my queen. I already know that part. But here's the other part here. These two rooks here are on light squares. The light square bishop is trying to lock in here with this diagonal to steal one of these rooks. I can't let that happen. So I go ahead and move my queen out of harm's way first. Queen d3. g6. Now, I know what you guys are thinking here. This is kind of like a mistake on my part, moving my queen to d3, because he could have simply moved his pawn forward already, Diego. He could have done it anyway and just attacked the pawn, but of course he would still have his diagonal. This is part of the learning process for chess here, because I had, when you're going through the process of a 5-minute game, sometimes it's hard to pick up on discovered attacks like this. But also considering that I was trying to go for this diagonal here. So even if Diego moved his pawn forward here with the discovered attack, I would go ahead and capture this pawn on h7 and just check the king. So g6 was his response. Rook e2, there we go. Move one of the rooks out of the way. d4, he goes with his discovered attack, but he's a little bit too late on that. Move my other rook. Rook h to h2. Queen goes to attack. Queen to c8. C takes d4. Okay. Bishop to b5. So here's another discovered attack of sorts. Of course, I got to move my queen out of the way because I don't want it being captured. It looks like my rook is going to be, just done. But here comes a good check. Queen to b3 check. King has to move out of the way. So therefore, I buy my rook enough time to get out of the way as well. Because that's the helpful things about checks in the game of chess. When you can check your way out of a pin like that, you got to do it. Another tip there. If you find yourself in a pin, look for a check. That's a key point right there I got to drive home. If you're in a pin like that, such as what I just showed here, the queen and the rook, if you can find a check and get one of those pieces out of there for a check, you buy yourself time. A check is basically this. You buy yourself a move. That's what it is. So king to g7. Rook e to g2. Move my rook out of the way. c5. D pawn takes c pawn, c5. Queen takes back, c5. h5. Now here we go. Going back to the wing. Keep putting pressure on that. Keep putting pressure on that corner. Now remember, so many moves ago, that pawn fortress that was in front of the king, that was not moving. I succeeded in getting that pawn structure broken. So now we're getting towards the end of the game here, and here's a critical point. This is why I titled this the much needed check. Diego, on move 34, he goes bishop c4, attacking my queen. I know this. He thinks he's got me. But here's one thing he overlooked. I'm going to point it out here in the green square. Right there. The pawn located on b7 over there, that's what he overlooked. And so you look at the time here, 128 for Diego, 150 for me. Starting to get a little bit low on time, but here's another tip. When you're faced with something like this, don't panic. Even when you're being pressured like this with the queen and the bishop, for example, look for a move, look for that much needed check. This is your aha moment. h6 check. Now I could have taken with the queen. I could have taken the pawn with the queen on b7, but I also knew that my pawn was located on h5. Now, Diego was just banking on the fact that my queen was in trouble. But I think temporarily he forgot about this traffic jam here of pawns. H6 check that forces the king back, because look here, this pawn on e5 is sitting right here. The king cannot go here. The king cannot go here. So he has to go back. King to h8, and then I take the pawn. Queen takes pawn b7. And you see where this is going. Rook a to b8. He does not address that one corner spot that's going to be the deciding move. Queen g7, checkmate. And there you have it. So easily a game that could have went either way for both of us. Diego had his moments. Diego had some interesting, good moments there where he made some, unique moves. But also, for me, I had to stay cool under pressure. And this is some of the things. This is like one of the things that I have to learn about as a chess player is that even when you're faced with pressure, you have to stay cool. You have to stay calm. And so I think I did a good job here of staying calm under pressure. I found the much needed check. And I just went out there and just got the checkmate. So again, a game that could have went either way. So yeah, this is what I would call basically a delayed King's Gambit. Not immediate King's Gambit, a delayed King's Gambit, but still that's the kind of form that this game took on. So yeah, this is an example of one game of many that I'm going to show you guys going forward here. If you like this content, please give it a like. Please give this video a like. Share this video with other aspiring chess players, those that want to learn more about the game of chess and want to play it more often. Share it with them. And just let them know that STVCastle chess is a thing, and it's going to be a thing going forward. So yeah, if you like my content in general on STVCastle, please subscribe and click the notification bell and all that. And I'll be back more with more STVCastle chess. Take care, guys. Bye.